Shalom Aleichem Rabotai. Mishnah Yomi is continuing in the 14th parak of Shabbat. Parak Yad, Mishnah Aleph. Shmone sheratzim, the 8 creepy, crawly creatures, ha'amura b'Torah, that are mentioned in the Torah, and that's in Vayikra chapter 11, pasuk 29 to 30. Let's diverge for a minute here and try to identify these. Or there is some discussion in the Mefarshim. Not everyone agrees exactly what these are. But we have the chulda. Chulda is a weasel, or choled, or chulda. Chulda is the feminine, and that's actually one of the classic jokes in Masechet Pesachim. When we get there, when you say ki chulda neviah, is a weasel prophetess. It's very funny. We'll get there in Pesachim, and we'll explain the joke. It's great. The achbar, a mouse. A tzav, Rashi says, is a toad. The koach, Rashi doesn't say anything, and the chizkuni says, I didn't hear anything. Some identify this as a chameleon or a large lizard, like Komodo dragon kind of thing, or alligator maybe. There's the anaka, Rashi says, is a hedgehog. Halata is a regular lizard. A chomet, Rashi says, is a slug or a snail, though some identify this as more something else. And tinshamet, a mole, not the kind you see a dermatologist for, but the kind that digs holes. Anyway, back to the Mishnah. Hatzodon, someone who traps them. V'chovel b'hen, or somebody who wounds them, chayev. Now Barner explains, because these things are normally trapped, so it's normal to trap them, so it's chayev deraisa, and chovel b'hen because they have skin. So because they have skin, so wounding them can be mefarek, can be like removing the blood or removing the skin from them. And mefarek is a tolda of dash. It's like separating the skin or the blood from the animal. He also says another pshat that since they have skin, so wounding them, causing a bruise, is tzoveya, because he's causing the blood to pool under the skin. There are other mefarshim who add that it could be also chayiv mishum shchita, that wounding could be a tolda of shchita, of killing. The Gemara says in other places, mali kat lakula, mali kat lapolga, that a partial killing is part of, it's portion of a bigger killing. Ushar shkatzim ramashem, and other creeping and crawling creatures. And Bartner here says these are like tolaim, worms, chelzonot, the famous chilazon, some sort of sea slug. The Gemara says in one place they would come up on land every 70 years. Tzorechiyun, that's where we get the tchelet from the chilazon. So it's tzorechiyun. We're not going to get to tchelis right now, so we're in Shabbos, we're going to say. Karavim, scorpions, so other creepy crawly things. Hatzodon l'tzorech chayiv. Sorry, hachova b'hen pater. If he wounds them, he's pater because they don't have skin, so they're not going to have the same effect of skin causing a dislocation of the skin or a pooling of blood, because they don't have any skin. And hatzodon l'tzorech chayiv. If he's trapping them because he needs them, he needs the scorpion to make some sort of refuah or something, then he's chayiv. But shlo l'tzorech pater. If he's trapping them just to keep them away, keep them out of his sukkah or whatever it is, then he's potter, because these things are not normally trapped. People don't usually go around trapping scorpions. Now, if this chelzonot that he's talking about is a chilazon, people do trap that. Let's sort of tchelis, sort of a tzorachiyun on that, Bartnura. Chayev v'ov shebershuto, the Mishnah continues, if he has an animal or a bird that's in his reshut already, it's in his farm, it's in his vivarium, as we mentioned in the last parak. Hatzodon pater, so when he traps them is pater, because they're already in his property, they're already in his enclosure. Achova b'chen chayev, but wounding them is chayev because again they have skins. According to Bartnura, it could be tzoveya or it could be dash. Mishnah bet ein osin hilmi b'Shabbat. We don't make brine on Shabbat. This hilmi is for pickling, to make kovshin, to pickle vegetables, to make them last. So it's got a lot of salt in it. It has powerful pickling substance. Avol osehu et meha melach, but he can make salt water. V'tovo b'hen pita, and he can dip his bread in the salt water, or pour the salt water into a cooked food. Amar Rabbi Yossi objects. Halohi hilmi, that you're making a hilmi. Bein meruba bein muad. Listen, if you can't make salt water, whether it's a lot or whether it's only a little bit, so whether it's only enough to dip your bread in or whether it's enough to tan a hide in, you've got a problem. Now, because the issue here is making this salt water it's a tolda of ibud, of tanning, because they would soak the leather in the salt water as part of the tanning process. So soaking vegetables is akin to that. The Gemara also notes that kavush is kemavushal, when we get into cooking, that salting can transfer tastes like cooking. But here, Bartanura says, it's an ibud issue. You're making salt water. It looks like you're preparing for the tanning process. So Rabbi Yossi is a good taina. He says, listen, you're allowing people to make a little bit of salt water for their meal, but not a lot of salt water. But the Chachamim do allow it, and Chalach is not like Rabbi Yossi. But the Mishnah continues. Here's what to do. And this is the mutter salt water. What do? Noten shemen batchila. You put in a little bit of oil, latocha mayim, into the water. Or latocha melech. You put a little bit of oil into the salt. And the partner says, adding a little bit of oil, so not only is it better for your dip, for your bread, but also it reduces the mixture between the salt and the water, so people aren't going to use this for tanning. If it's got a little oil in it already before you mix the water and the salt, then it's not so good for tanning. The salt is not so powerful to do the ibud. Shkak harbosai, tzizkul mitzvot.